This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we got some exciting news, and I had a fun night. Last night, we had a gubernatorial debate with the 5 candidates who qualified for the ballot for Michigan. One of these people will be fighting for, them to beat Gretchen Whitmer, the tyrannical governor, which she has been and is still. She's been a lot more tactful, I suppose, but well, I guess there's no stuff to do with the lockdown, so there's not really a lot of opportunity there. But what she's trying to do with Roe v. Wade and all the other kind of stuff and supersede our Michigan Constitution is pretty awful. But anyway, it was a fun night. I woke up to some exciting news. Larry Elder had retweeted one of my articles, so that was exciting. So I'll talk about a little bit about that and what I actually wrote, and you guys can also go to the website and check that out and read it for yourself. But Biden is been making a fool of himself, not, surprising. He has no backbone or spine. He's always gone with the ways of the wind. And so on the campaign trail, people were very concerned about packing the Supreme Court and killing the filibuster and all that other kind of stuff. And there are questions he didn't want to answer because he didn't want to take off his base. And there were things, he knows it's a bad idea to kill a filibuster. He knows it's a bad thing to pack the courts, but he's talking about killing the filibuster in order to codify Roe v. Wade. So what do they want? Well, what they tried to pass not too long ago was pretty darn extreme. It would have overwritten hundreds of state laws. It was far more extreme than just Roe v. Wade. So what they actually have in mind is actually pretty terrible and worse than we had before. But they want to protect this institution of abortion so badly. It's pretty ridiculous. So we're going to talk about that. Biden, some of the stuff that he's saying. He has no plan for gas, by the way. Maybe they want to try the gas tax holiday a little bit. It's going to save a little bit for a little while, but most people think it's a gimmick. As a matter of fact, there's just a video of Obama from 2008 when he's like trashing Hillary Clinton about it being a gimmick. So people have been circulating that around, and he'll do every single thing to blame everyone else, including Russia. And he says Russia. So I'm just thinking about Sure Jan, from like the Brady Bunch, like Marsha. It's like, sure, Jan, sure. So I got that clip for you guys today. Also, Disney, we are well aware of the fact that Baymax movie's come out. We've talked about it on the show, and people are gaslighting so hard about the indoctrination of children concerning like the transgender ideology and stuff, and I do not appreciate it. So I got to talk about it today. I actually had posted a video about someone's detransition story, and it got reported for hate speech on TikTok. And I'm not surprised. And people were joking before it got reported and taken down about how it was going to get reported and taken down. And I thought they were trolls at first. I'm like, oh, I'm about to block this person so I can kind of protect my page. And I looked, I'm like, they were followers. So they're just joking, laughing about the moment because they know it's not going to last. We shouldn't live in a society where we can't have conversations. Did you guys know that Jordan Peterson was kicked off of Twitter for like a week-old tweet talking about Ellen Page, who is now Elliot? Just basic things. We can't even handle basic things anymore. So we live in a really crazy world. So we'll get to all those things today. I get one story I'm going to show you is pretty crazy from out of Canada. The Toronto police. Just wait. It's going to be the first thing I probably talk about because it's pretty wild. After the Larry Elder thing. There's so many things to talk about today. But before we jump into it all, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out my website, check out different articles that I have, like the one that Larry Elder tweeted out today. It's called Why the Left Hates Me and Why I'm Proud of It. So I'm so glad that I hurried up and I got that out before the debate, because actually someone I know actually passed it along to him. So it was just really cool. There's lots of cool things you guys can check out on the website. Make sure that you guys are dropping in your emails, that you guys are following me across all the different social media platforms. I'm on Twitch, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. All my handles are at Black Tea News, with the exception of Twitter. That one is at True Black Tea, and my backup TikTok is also at True Black Tea. Remember, it's black like the color and tea like the drink. You guys can check out different merchandise that we have on the store. You guys are liking the Roe v. Wade stuff that I got. The Life Win shirt on the Roe and Casey aborted shirts. You guys have been liking that. We got 4th of July coming up. So we got the cool Frederick Douglass shirt, the Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document, and that is from the What is 4th of July to a Slave speech, which he gave on the 5th of July, not the 4th, because why would you dunk on the 4th of July? He still had a lot of respect for our Constitution and for our founding fathers, despite the fact that the country wasn't living up to the ideals of it. That is a really great speech, by the way. What is 4th of July to a slave? A lot of people try to use it to try to down America, but they're really not paying attention to the spirit of the speech, which I promise we will go through before the 4th, or maybe I'll post it on the 4th. Maybe that'll be a good way to sort of celebrate it or something. Also got other great merch you guys can check out as well on the site. And if you would like to support blacktnews.com, you guys can go to blacktnews.com/donate and leave your gift there. I appreciate everything that you guys can do, whether it's $10, $20, $25, $50, more than that. Some people have given more sometimes, and it always makes my day, believe me. But if you can, I understand times are tough, or maybe simply you just don't want to. Not begging, but gotta ask, but not gonna beg. But I still ask that you guys would that you would share, that you would subscribe, that you would invite other people to like the page. At the debate, I saw quite a few people who watch Black Tea News, and I really sincerely appreciate everyone who does and who passes stuff along. It's very much appreciated, very much appreciated. So briefly, want to talk about how Larry Elder did share my article today. I woke up, he did it about like 3 a.m., I guess. And then I woke up at 8 in the morning, just check my socials really quick. That's, I guess I'm kind of programmed to do that now. And then I saw I had some notifications, and I clicked on my notification and where it was led to. And then the top said Larry Elder. And so that's my and that's my website, and that's my article in there. And so I did reference Larry Elder in the article. So briefly, what it's about. There's a lot of people who are really, really upset about Roe v. Wade. Alito wrote the opinion, but they're most mad at Thomas. Now, they're mad at Thomas because of some of the stuff that he said in his, separate opinion. That doesn't mean anything. It's just his opinion. And you can be mad about it, but the merit should just be the merits of whether it's right or wrong. But people have called him the N-word. People have called him Uncle, Tom, Uncle Clarence, all sorts of different things. Hillary Clinton went on a rant about how it was her elegant way of saying that he's an angry Black man. Lori Lightfoot said F you. And so there's all these terrible things that people said about him. And people have said terrible things about Larry Elder. They've called, when he was running for governor, the LA Times said he was the face of white supremacy. If you don't know who Larry Elder is, that's his profile picture up there. He's a Black man. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't, make them a white supremacist. It's so wild. It's so wild. So they talked about him. They talk about all sorts of conservatives and say the most nastiest, vile things to them. I post some things that some people say about me sometimes, and I posted one the other day when I got home from the debate. I was looking at some of the comments, and someone had left a comment just under the video of the debates, just saying, "Hey, there's a big debate tonight," and they said, "When are you going to be done? I need someone to pick my cotton." And so I'm like, I always kind of want to respond something witty to it. I'm just like, what the heck, bro? That's what was in my mind at first for a while. And I wanted to say the 13th, 14th Amendment thing again. Like, I'm so sorry the 13th, 14th Amendment happened to you, but I already used that. So I want to do something different. So I said, well, Joe Biden didn't get to that executive order yet. I think his poll numbers are too low, for that right now. And so I posted that, and people were so angry about that tweet. They didn't care about my responses. Only one person was like, "Oh, that response is great." Everyone else was like, "I know you don't like this language, but bleep, 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 bleep." Just angry. And I appreciate people being righteously upset about when people say awful things like that. Unfortunately and fortunately, I'm used to that sort of stuff, and a lot of it just really rolls off my back. So you guys don't have to lose sleep over it on my behalf. Just support harder, I guess I would say. Make sure that you're sharing and liking and giving if you can. Just I guess to stick it to them and help to grow the page, because voices like mine, voices like Larry Elder, voices like Candace Owens. Not everybody agrees with Candace Owens, or the way that she puts things, but they just don't like people who are willing to speak out. And I'm not always going to be right, but they don't care about people who get things wrong sometimes. The point is that I try to tell the truth. And the left, they live off of feelings. And even if it's a lie, if it feels virtuous, that's the point. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. All that matters is their virtue, even if it's based on a lie. Even if it's based on a lie. I can't live like that. I can't live like that. I have to tell the truth. It's moral to tell the truth. Even in difficult situations, it's moral to tell the truth. So Thomas Sowell, Larry, in the article, it talks a bit about Thomas Sowell and how Clarence Thomas really looked up to Thomas Sowell, and how Thomas Sowell just would say, "This is what they say, but these are the facts." He was just always wants to tell the truth, doesn't care about awards and people praising him and all this other kind of stuff. He cares about just telling the truth. And I think people like that are pretty dangerous, and they're especially dangerous in skin like mine. We're all human beings, right? But people really don't like when Black people speak up, because they don't want other Black people to look at other Black people and just start thinking like, is it okay if I think a little bit differently? Because what do people say about Republicans? They're so racist because there's a low number of people who vote Republican who are Black. So if there's numbers that start growing, that's not a talking point that they have anymore. And isn't it that crazy they have that talking point to scare people from joining like the Republican Party or being conservative? Isn't it crazy how they mind warp people? Which, by the way, I have a video that I did about why people vote Black people vote Democrat. There's 3 particular reasons that I won't go into now, but it's a good video if you haven't seen it. Check it out. So I do what I do because I feel that I must. And I'll take the slings and the arrows, and really, when someone calls me a coon, someone calls me an Auntie Tom or whatever, at this point, it's just a badge of honor. I know that I'm doing the right thing. So at this point in time, it's just, I know they don't mean it as a compliment, but it's just a reminder that I'm doing my job. So again, I really appreciate everyone who watches. I was really honored for him to tweet it out. I really like Larry Elder. Been following his stuff for a while. For a couple years. I'm not a lifelong viewer or something like that. But past couple years, yeah, I really, really like Larry Elder stuff when I became aware of him. So I was excited to see that. So yay. Okay, let's move on. First story that's really, really, really crazy is oh boy. So the Toronto police are very concerned because there's a missing woman. And I'm serious, there's a missing woman, so they're very concerned. So they put out this statement, okay? The Toronto Police Service requests public assistance for locating a missing woman. Isabella DeGrace, 27, was last seen on Saturday, June 25th, 2022 at 3 a.m. She is described as 5'10", with a thin build, shaggy blonde hair, and a full goatee. She was last seen wearing a black shirt and gray pants. So, someone is missing, and they say it's a woman. That is the description, and the goatee is probably throwing you off. 5'10", you're like, that's a pretty tall broad. My sister, I have a sister who's like 5'10". I'm 5'8". 5'10" is pretty tall. Thin build, okay, like some kind of volleyball player, right, or something like. No, okay. Shaggy blonde hair, okay, and then you get to the full goatee. And this is a missing woman, someone that they want help finding. The Toronto police, very serious establishment. What does this woman look like? That's the missing woman. That's the picture they tweeted. Tell me. Even after reading that description and seeing that person, would it just register in your head that that was the missing woman? Would it register? I don't know. I don't know. So that's the crazy bonkers world that we're living in right now. Guys, I don't know what to tell you, that we're so far detached from reality that someone's life could be hanging in the balance, and they have to make sure to respect the gender pronouns and all that stuff, even at the risk of people not recognizing that this is the missing woman. What happened, Canada? UK's got some crazy stuff going on too, but man, that is wackadoodle. Absolutely bizarre. So we are going into some dark places, and it's only going to get worse, and get worse by design. So you guys should be aware that Disney has decided to put out their film Baymax. Now, we played the clip the other day when it came out, the day it came out. I wrote an article about it on blacktnews.com, which I guess I'm going to write another one. But Baymax is a spinoff of the movie Big Hero 6. Came out about 8 years ago. And so Baymax is this big, fluffy, white healthcare worker robot. Very cute and lovable, though in the trailer there were some moments he looked kind of sinister. I don't understand why they did that, because everyone thinks he's gushy and kind of lovable. Okay. So there's a scene where he goes to a drugstore, and there's a woman shopping for tampons, and he's like, I need some help or something. And so she's like, oh, okay, well, these are the kind I use. And all of a sudden, there's all these people. This doesn't really happen in the grocery store, but whatever, drugstore, wherever it was. Everybody was like, oh, this is the kind I use, this kind I use, this kind I use. And one of the people was this masculine presenting person who had a trans shirt on to make it obvious in case you miss it. And they say, these are the ones I always use. The voice was kind of deeper, so probably, was on testosterone and stuff. And since they said I, obviously that was a biological female who believes that they are male and is a trans man. They're trying to transition. Of course, when people try to transition, they will never complete the journey. It's like chasing a rainbow to get to the pot of gold. It's just not going to happen. But they have a right to pursue. You can't make me entertain that pursuit, though. Not going on that journey with you, but I understand that's what you believe. So anyway, people are kind of like, why is there a period scene in this children's film? Now, It's PG according to Disney. Parental guidance, which usually you shouldn't just leave your kid in front of the TV, but the parental guidance is like you should probably watch that with your kid. And I think parental guidance is like starting at age 8 and up. So that might be about like the time when a parent's like, hey, you're gonna have your period soon. Let's have some conversations. Maybe start talking about where babies come from. I don't know. Because you got it once you explain like why this is about to happen, you go probably going into why it happened. So I don't know. I don't remember. I was probably maybe around that time, I assume. Um when I had kind of talks like that. But I'm not sure. Maybe at least maybe still a little further, but I know girls can get them as like at 9 and I'm pretty sure I was like 12. So some parents are like, this is weird, this is awkward. Mike and some people are like, I have boys, young boys, they wouldn't really like the scene. So besides the whole like trans ideology stuff, people are like, this is weird, right? And so on the other side of this is weird, people are like, this is awful. Why would you put this in here? And then there's all these people on the left who are like, why shouldn't it be in there? Why are you guys freaking out about it? It's no big deal. It's no big deal. So I posted the clip on my TikTok, and then there's all these people commenting. And it's gone beyond my normal algorithm. There's people like really on the left, people who are trans and bi and other stuff who are commenting, and they are insisting it's no big deal. Psh, you conservatives are overreacting, kind of laughing at the overreacting, and they keep insisting it's no big deal. And so some people have even said there's no agenda and like mocking conservatives and everyone who just acknowledges that there's obviously an agenda. So to some people I have replied, Disney has literally said they have a not so secretly gay agenda. They have an agenda with adding. Bob Chapek has talked about how they want that they have an agenda to basically change hearts and minds and stuff through their content with this representations. Because when people were very angry about the Don't Say Gay bill, which is the parental rights and education bill, before Disney was like, oh, we're going to give money to people who are going to destroy this legislation. At first they were just kind of like, we're going to stay out of it, but we're going to focus on our content. So I'm like, okay, so they're saying that, I don't know if everybody caught it the way that they were saying it. Bob Chapek was saying, I'm like, but they're saying we're not going to get involved so much in this political stuff. We believe that we can just invade your children's minds, just creating the content that we make, right? But that wasn't good enough because his employees like cried. They do have conservative employees and they feel bullied and don't want to even speak up, even in surveys and stuff. There's like this open letter to Disney and everything that was released. But they really, 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 really are very, very, I don't know, concentrated on their LGBT woke staff that they resent their customers that have made them so much money, and they don't care about people who work within Disney who don't share those values. That's what they pushed. For people who don't know, Gina Carano was really fired because she upset the pronoun police. Gina Carano was on the Mandalorian TV show, and the last time she really had any contact with Disney, because they did give her a different reason, when she tweeted out something about the lockdowns and made a Holocaust reference, and it was just like snitching on your neighbors kind of stuff, and that's what people were doing. Honestly, I know people don't like those kind of comparisons, but it wasn't people didn't care about her point. So anyway, Lucas was like, oh, this is disgusting, she's disrespecting Jewish people. I'm like, that's not even what happened. So they slandered her in their "you're fired" sort of tweet. But they were really looking for an excuse to get rid of her, because what really made them upset was people were like, what's your pronouns? What's your pronouns? What's your pronouns? And so she was like, beep, bop, boop. And she doesn't have a problem with trans people, but she's like, you're not going to bully me until like what I put in my profile. So that set up Disney's executives, and they sent a special like LGBT rep specifically to her, and they wanted her to get on a Zoom call with like 40 different LGBT people. She thought that was weird, and so she's like, how about I take like 2 or 3 of them out to dinner and we have a conversation. And they didn't like the way that she wanted to handle things. She's like, I can apologize, but I'm not going to like say something that's untrue. I want to be like true to me. And they didn't like that, so they like she wouldn't just bow down and grovel in an apology. So they severed their, I guess, connection at that point. And next time she heard from Disney was like, hey, we're not working with Gina Carano because she hates Jewish people or disregarded them, disrespect them, whatever the statement was. It wasn't true. So that's really why she got fired. Anyway, Chris Rufo has reported on Disney and a lot of their woke stuff, and a lot of stuff has been leaked as far as their conversations, really, really trying to inject this stuff. So if you were okay with that agenda, that's whatever. But to deny that there is an agenda is just being dishonest. You're just being dishonest. So okay, so there's an agenda. So people pretending it's not with the Baymax thing, you're wrong. There's obviously an agenda. Okay, glad we settled that. So to everyone else who was like, it's not a big deal, I started asking them questions. 2 questions specifically. All right. So I would either ask the people, do you believe that this man is a man? Do you believe this is a man? Or do you believe that only women can get periods? Do you believe? So there's a person, it is masculine presenting. But if they have a period, they are a woman. So I'm like, do you believe men can get periods? And they all said yes. Everyone who I asked that question to, they acknowledged it was leading. They some of them were like, why are you asking this question? Because I wanted to know how deep they were into the ideology. Okay, so they all said that this person buying pads is a man. For themselves, not for a neighbor or friend. There was a dad there who was buying pads for his daughter, but there was someone who was presenting as a man, believes they're a man, trying to live as a man, transitioning to man, but obviously they're women because they have a uterus and they bleed. Okay? Uterine lining is shedding. So it's a woman. The second question that I asked people, I said, if it's not a big deal, then would you be fine if Disney edited out? The answer is no. Some of them would try to go in a roundabout way. The response that I would usually get is, what's wrong with a little bit of representation? That's what they'd say. So I'm glad we debunked all that, because if it's not important, then why do you care that it is in there? So let's just admit that it is important to you, and it's important to the people who don't like it either. Let's just all admit that it is more of a monumental thing that you want to give credit for. It's part of the agenda that you tried to deny. Okay? Now, to the people who ask me what's wrong with the representation, men cannot have periods. I don't want to push the lie onto children. It's that simple. That person will never be a man. I don't want to push that lie onto children. And you can say, well, they teach magic and all this other kind of stuff in these films and blah, blah, blah. You can be whoever you want to be. And no. It's about indoctrination, and you're trying to socially engineer people. Chris Evans with the Buzz Lightyear movie, mad because people didn't like that kind of stuff. He's like, they'll die off like dinosaurs. They're hoping that the parents are too busy and they're checking out and they're just dumping their kids in front of the TV, and the TV will teach them. The TV will teach them. They'll go to school, and then the teachers will teach them and tell them to be, to have these certain ideals and to keep it from their parents, which is stuff that has happened. If you don't believe that there are really good reasons for the parental rights and education bills, apparently you don't watch the show enough, because we covered plenty. But you go to blacktnews.com, there are articles there, okay, with references. There are good reasons and instances where administrators and teachers and stuff, we're indoctrinating kids, not just in California, but in Florida where the bill happened. And they were telling people to hide things from kids, even doing things like having transition plans for them and asking questions about when they go on school trips for overnight trips, which cabins they want to sleep in. So if you had a daughter and you expect her to be with the girls' cabin filled with all these girls, wouldn't you be a little livid if there was a boy who decided that he wanted to sleep in the girls' cabin and he was still like attracted to girls? Wouldn't that be like a, I don't know, blow a gasket dad kind of moment? I know my dad would. So there is an agenda. If you personally believe that you are the opposite sex, that sounds like a you problem. Now, someone tried to tell me that I didn't understand what it meant to be trans. So this is why I posted this particular video. They ended up getting taken down. Now, to TikTok's credit, they did put it up, but it got reported for hate speech. It got reported for hate speech. I'm going to show you the story in case you didn't see it on my Facebook. I did share it. Oh, give me 1 second.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a 17-year-old detransitioner from the Central Valley. I was medically transitioned from ages 13 to 16. My parents took me to a therapist who affirmed my male identity, and the therapist did not care about causality or encourage me to learn to be comfortable in my body. He brushed off my parents' concerns about the efficacy of hormones, puberty blockers, and surgeries. My parents were given the threat of suicide as a reason to move me forward in my transition. My endocrinologist, after 2 to 3 appointments, put me on puberty blockers and injectable testosterone. At age 15, I asked to remove my breasts. My therapist continued to affirm my transition. I attended a top surgery class that was filled with around 12 girls that thought they were men. Most were my age or younger. None of us were going to be men. We were fleeing from the uncomfortable feeling of becoming women. I was unknowingly physically cutting off my true self from my body, irreversibly and painfully. Our trans identities were not questioned. I went through with surgery. Despite having therapists and attending the top surgery class, I really didn't understand all of the ramifications of any of the medical decisions I was making. I wasn't capable of understanding, and it was downplayed consistently. My parents, on the other hand, were pressured to continue my so-called gender journey with a suicide threat. I will never be able to breastfeed a child. I have blood clots in my urine. I am unable to fully empty my bladder. I do not yet know if I am capable of carrying a child to full term. In fact, even the doctors who put me on puberty blockers and testosterone do not know. SB 107 is circumventing states' laws that have needed safeguards in place so my story is not repeated. Children cannot consent. Vote no on SB 107.
So I shared that story on TikTok, and people were like counting down when it was going to get taken down, and it was reported for hateful behavior. Now, what was hateful about that? What was hateful? It was the ugly truth that people don't want to be told. Now, when I complained about this on Facebook, it getting taken down, someone said that, no, we want their voices heard, but these people who are detransitioners, they're being used by the right. To what? Elevate their story so more kids aren't brutally mutilated? And no, people don't want their voices heard. If I don't talk about gender stuff as much on TikTok because that is the most sensitive, vindictive group on that app. And there's some things I'm surprised survived, to be frank. But there's a lot of people, especially if they tell detransition stories and stuff, they get reported over and over and over again. And their stuff gets taken down because you're like guilty first and then have to be proven innocent with the TikTok. Stuff will get reported. You're like, I appeal it. And maybe they see it your way or maybe they don't. So there's one account that I follow of someone who's a detransitioner, and she is a singer, and when she started taking the hormones and her voice stopped working, like she knew her voice would change, but then it dawned on her how terrible that would be, because she tried to do a high note that should be easy, and then she couldn't reach it anymore, and she just hit a brick wall with like the revelation of your body is still your body, and you can't fight against biology. I would not wish this upon anyone, people feeling like they're in the wrong body. I mean, I think everybody pretty much knows what it's like to be uncomfortable at one point with their body. That is really a part of growing up in puberty. Things feel awkward. You don't always feel like you belong. You don't always. Sometimes you feel like you're too fat. Sometimes you feel like you're ugly. Sometimes you're too gangly. You wish all sorts of things about yourself. It's just a part of growing up. There's a lot of kids, most kids who have any sort of kind of questions about their gender grow out of it. Some of them just grow out of it, and some of them realize that they're gay. There's a lot of people who are going this route of being trans who are not trans. There's people out here who have been radicalized on Tumblr, and people who've been radicalized on TikTok now. People say they need representation for this. I'm going to be frank, and this isn't going to be popular. I don't think that this should have more representation. I think this is something that people should gatekeep the crap out of. What? Why would you be so happy to have so many other people in the community recognizing that there's such a high suicide rate associated with this? Why would that like make you so excited? Like I've seen videos of girls like so excited once they're announced like I'm a boy, and there's like a crowd of just screaming young girls. I'm like, this is weird. This is weird. And then they expect everyone else to comply, and they use emotional blackmail. And they're like, well, if you don't, if you say it's a mental illness, they'll get really mad. But then they'll say, if you don't affirm us, we're going to commit suicide. I'm like, something is wrong here. Did you just hear what you said? Like, wouldn't it be better to help people try to cope as much as possible with the reality of, yes, you feel different in your body, but it's still your body? Or at least like you can go ahead and change your body, but you're still not going to be a woman or a man. So if the goal is to normalize versus destigmatize, I want people treated kindly, respectfully. Again, I have the utmost sympathy for this situation. But I don't want to normalize. I think you should gatekeep. Because you don't want a situation like Chloe, where you're just going through the motions of puberty, you feel uncomfortable, and next thing you know, we're in a room with other young women, and you're having your breast chopped off. And she said her parents were emotionally blackmailed into going along with it. There's something in a news story that they repeated on Fox News about, oh, you'd rather have a son than a dead daughter, or son, or they were telling a story about a child who transitioned at like 5 or 3 or something. And people were saying things like, oh, well, you'd rather have an alive son than a dead daughter. That's the rhetoric they give. If you want to talk about the community, emotional blackmail is part of their community. For everyone. This is not something that we should make popular in the world. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So we will hear more stories about people are like, oh, that's a very small percentage. We will hear more of them. We will hear more. I'm sure. Unfortunately, Chloe's story is sad enough. And she's not alone. But I've seen people on Twitter share their stories that get mass reported. There are Reddit threads that are heartbreaking. I've watched quite a few on YouTube, and you can read something like Abigail Schreier's irreversible damage. I believe there's data that this is a social contagion. There are people with genuine gender dysphoria. There are. But there's a lot of young women, normally with a particular political bent, and perhaps other psychological issues that aren't getting properly diagnosed because they assume that it's gender dysphoria, and people affirm that suspicion and affirm that diagnosis rather than getting to the root cause of that dysphoria. And they'll go ahead and transition and then become a guinea pig for big pharma for a very long time. There's a heartbreaking scene on What is a Woman, Matt Walsh's What is a Woman. And then they expect everyone to go along with the con. Like the White House. Biden saying if you love your kids, you'll transition them. You'll affirm them. That's what he said. Affirm. They got some pretty twisted ideas of the affirmation, man. So there's social affirmation with the clothing and the hairstyles and changing the names and pronouns and going to the different restrooms and other facilities. So that is, once you talk about going to different facilities and restrooms and all that kind of other stuff, that is really including other people, and it can be inconveniencing, women. When you see a man go into your locker room, you're like, why are you here? But you're the bigot if you have a problem with it. But then they also said puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender affirming surgeries. That is what the administration is pushing. That is wild. That is wild. So, anyway, don't gaslight me. I don't, and I'll say it again. I think you can destigmatize stuff, but that doesn't mean that you should normalize it. Would you want to normalize bulimia or anorexia, cutting yourself? I wouldn't want those things normalized in a kid's TV show. So why would I want to normalize vasectomies? Why would double mastectomies when you cut off your boobs? Why would I want to do that? Why would I normalize sterilizing drugs that they give prisoners to sterilize themselves to block people's puberty? Why would I want to do that on children's shows? And I know they're not going that deep into it, but why do you think they put that stuff in there? And some of course, it's just to virtue signal to people, older people. It's not all just for the youngins, but they pepper it in there for normalization. I don't want it normalized. I don't. That makes me a bigot. I don't care. Sounds like a you problem. I'm not offended. Just don't gaslight me. Just don't gaslight me. Okay, moving on. I want to talk about Biden. So Biden has some crazy ideas. So how do you think people would react if there wasn't a conservative majority and Trump was still president and he was going around the world and trashing our Supreme Court to NATO and other folks? Don't you think that I don't know, people would have an issue with that? I think people would have an issue with that, but let's listen to Biden talk.
The one thing that has been destabilizing is the outrageous behavior of the Supreme Court of the United States in overruling not only Roe v. Wade, but essentially challenging the right to privacy. We've been a leader in the world in terms of personal rights and privacy rights, and it is a mistake, in my view, for the Supreme Court to do what it did.
So just because you kill someone privately doesn't mean that it's okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. The privacy thing only makes sense if you really don't think of the unborn as anything other than I don't know, like a mole or something that you want to remove, but it's not. It's a separate human being with its own unique DNA on a self-determined path to coming out and being a gorgeous little baby like my nephew. Okay, you can't just kill someone, conspire with your doctor to kill someone and be like privacy. That's not how it works. I know that's how people think it should work, but it's always been stupid. I'm sorry. You grew up in a stupid world, sir. So here's something else that Biden said was pretty nice.
Most important thing to be clear about is we have to change. I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be, we provide an exception for this, require an exception to the filibuster for this action to deal with the Supreme Court decision.
So they've talked about filibuster before, and so you have two sane senators from the Democrat side that don't want to do that. Okay, Sinema and Manchin. When they tried to codify Roe before, or codify, it was pretty messed up. They had all sorts of things in there that would have overwritten hundreds of state laws, including things. And Murkowski, I think, and maybe Collins spoke up, but at least one of the two of them, they're Republicans, but they're pro-choice, and they noted what about requirements that parents should know and all sorts of other stuff. Like, you're going to remove those sorts of things. There were some pretty extreme things in the bill, and also the possibility with being able to terminate a pregnancy up to 9 months. There is that possibility in there with the bill. So you have to understand that these people are very, very radical. All the states have the opportunity to vote on that. They've had a long opportunity to try to do something, and now they're using it as sort of a last-ditch effort. I don't know, for political games. But I'm sorry, people are just not as passionate about sacrificing the unborn on the altar of self as Democrats think they are. And I'm seeing a lot of people on TikTok and stuff, and you can take these anecdotes for whatever you want, but who are people who are pro-choice, who are kind of moving toward more pro-life, because a problem that the pro-life movement has had for a while is apathy, right? A lot of people just felt like, I want to stay out of it, not my business, and maybe it's hard for them to think about the unborn as, especially like men, they can't have a baby themselves, and so most of them are just like, it's just, it's not my business, woman's business, whatever. And the pro-life movement has had to be like, no, don't you know anything about embryology? Like, look, I know it's tiny, like the size of a bean, but don't you know how developed it is, and the heart, and blah, blah, like saying all this kind of other stuff to humanize that human being. So that's been the challenge of the pro-life movement. Now the left is going to have to be like, don't you care about all these rights, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they will, but when you make them care, but that they hear things like, we should be able to do stuff up into 9 months. They're like, what? And if they care, and maybe they start looking at reasons why women have abortions, and because they'll empathize. I saw one viral video. They're like, I really empathize with particular cases. Like, you might say like rape or something, and they look it up, and it's like less than 1%. No, it's awful any time that happens to a human being. But when it comes to abortions, if we made exceptions for like life of the mother and rape, like that would wipe out, and then got rid of all the other abortions would basically be gone. They'd basically be gone, because that'd be like more than like 98% of them. So the really, really rare exceptions that people tout as like, this is the reason why, and this is why so many people are sympathetic about it, It's not what people have thought in the past. So when they start looking at that numbers and see that people are just simply, they say they're not ready, they're, I don't know, financially not ready, but then when they look at other stats, it just doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Like, they're like, what if a 15-year-old really want a 15 or 14 or whatever to have an abortion? Well, most abortions are from women aged 20 to 40, and 86% of them are unmarried. So someone left a comment today. I had one of my followers left a comment and said, "What is so hard about people not sleeping with people that they don't want to be like entangled with, and to just practice, just safer sex with their partners and other kind of stuff like that?" And someone was like, "Because we're not all prudes." And sex isn't only for making babies. I mean, we're going by the biology. I mean, that is the purpose of procreation, and you call it reproductive rights. What do you think reproductive rights are for? You don't think they're perhaps for reproduction? You don't think that's a thing? But there are people out here who basically their campaign slogan is "Hoes need abortion." And you know what? That's what people have actually chanted. There was a video, I think at the Supreme Court, or in front of at the Capitol or something. I don't know. It was for some pro-choice group, and there's just a woman going, "Hoes need abortion." I'm not kidding you. And then there's one video I saw of a person, big black lady, and she's like, "It's okay to get an abortion because you had some hot sex and you don't want a baby afterwards." So when people hear things like that, they're like, this movement's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. I understand you don't want a baby, but like, and you apparently wouldn't make a great mother, but like, should you be able to just go out and kill people? That doesn't make sense. So politically, I don't think this is going to be what the Democrats wanted to be. People who are very passionate about these issues already are honed in on voting a particular sort of way. So those people in the middle who've had more apathy about the issue, I guess it's a fight between the right and the left to get them. And not all people who are pro-life are on the right, and vice versa, but it's pretty much that way. But while the Democrats are so stuck on this really, really extreme rhetoric, I think they're more likely to scare the rest of the people off, because it seems like you're taking advantage of a lot of people's goodwill. And you'll have these politicians, Stacey Abrams, Joe Biden, Beto O'Rourke, sure, my governor. I know Haley Stevens for sure, because I tried to ask her this question myself. Like, when you ask them, when does the unborn get rights, or when does life begin, or are you for abortion up to 9 months? They'll say plainly, trust the woman. Now, it's funny how you couldn't trust the women during the pandemic or whatever. You had to shut down their businesses, literally paint on the aisles which direction they had to walk. I mean, there was really no trust of women, right? Had to mandate vaccines and all kind of nonsense. Okay? So you don't trust women, nor do you care about their bodily autonomy, but for some reason, you want women to be able to abort their children up to 9 months. Even knowing that most of them happen before like 15 weeks. So it just seems weird, but that's the route they're going. Now, bigger babies catch a pretty penny. Sure, that has nothing to do with it. That's the route they want to go. Americans aren't on board with that, but that's what they want to push. When I talked to Haley Stevens, she's a congresswoman from Michigan, because I went to her debate. She had no way of just knowing I was Republican. And so I was like, so I heard you guys talk about reproductive rights, but like, what about the unborn? Don't you believe that they have any rights at all? Like, when does their right begin? And so she wouldn't say, and she's like, well, I just believe that in a woman's choice. And I've had, friends who've been, just went on like a long roundabout sort of way. And then she's like, well, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from here. I spent half my career like here, and then I moved out to like college. She's like, oh, I'm like, but you didn't answer my question. And she's like, oh, you're really, really, hitting the hard stuff. I'm like, it's a really simple question, actually. And so she just grinned hard, and she's like, have a nice night. Like, she wouldn't answer the question. So if you believe that women have the right to abortion, but the unborn don't have any sort of rights until they're born, you are justifying 9-month abortion. And that's what the Democrats want to go with. So conservatives or people who are just pro-life in general, you need to hit these politicians and everyone who's running for any sort of spot, I think, and your neighbors and your friends, because you need to have these conversations with them. When does the right to life begin? What sort of rights do the unborn have? Because if it's none, then you can support 9-month abortion. What's your reasoning that it can't happen or shouldn't happen if there's no rights? People need to answer those questions. They need to think about these things. And Democrats don't have good answers because it's immoral. Because it's immoral. So this is the hill that they want to die on. The White House even supported some link Breitbart reported. I heard on the radio, or I think it was Fox News, but I was just listening through Sirius Radio. No, I think I was listening to Ben Shapiro. I think that's what happened. And they were talking about the White House promoting this link that also told kids how they could get abortions without their parents knowing. And that just made me so angry. That I heard that right before I went to the debate. I was so angry when I heard that. These people are so sick. And you know what? I talk about my good friend who had an abortion in high school. And she told her mother about it. She clued her in, but she said, and she came here on my program to talk about her story. But she said in high school, in their health class, everyone's like, oh, we need sex education. The idea was introduced within the sex class that you can have one without your parents knowing. I really, really despise when people try to sow seeds of division between the children and their parents. I despise that. I hate it so much. Man, because I think about, I don't have any kids right now, but those mama genes or something deep within me just get visceral rage. And that was always so important, the bridge of trust in my house. The only time you get really, really, really get in trouble is if you broke trust. And I just can't stand the idea of another adult or some kind of figure coming in and trying to just sow those seeds of division. That's one of the reasons why I'm so ticked off about Disney, because it's very clear that they see parents as an obstacle, and that Chris Evans' attitude of these people are going to die off by like dinosaurs, and we're just going to take your kids and indoctrinate them in the way that we think that they should go. That's why I was so passionate about the parental rights and education bill. Talked about it a lot when it was the hot topic. I have a few articles on the site about it. Man. Okay, let's move on a little bit. But I got another Biden goodie. He talked about the gas prices and he blamed Russia. And I'm not kidding. He said Russia.
If we do these things, it's estimated we could bring down tomorrow, if Congress agreed and the states agreed, we could bring down the price of oil about $1 a gallon at the pump, in that range. And so we could have immediate relief in terms of the reduction of the elimination of temporary elimination of the gas tax. And so I think there's a lot of things we can do and we will do, but the bottom line is, ultimately, the reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia. Russia. The reason why the food crisis exists is because of Russia. Russia not allowing grain to get out of Ukraine.
So, to that I say, sure, Jan. Russia. Marsha. Come on. Gas prices, I'm not saying all that doesn't have an impact, which, by the way, we talked about either last week or the week before, that Biden's people were unaware of how much impact would be because of the war, on inflation and everything. They were unaware of how bad it could be. So just know, sleep easy tonight in your bed, knowing that we are led by such incompetence. Oh gosh. But things were high before that, so you can't just blame everything on that. You cannot blame everything on that. You just can't. You just can't. And you have like the oil companies reaching out and saying, hey, there are things you can do to make the price go down. And Biden ignores that because they want the prices to be up. But there's just Trump sound that's going on TikTok. I'm going to film something with the sound. And he's like, if you vote for Biden, your gas is going to be, he's like, $2 gas is nice, right? If you vote for Biden, your gas is going to be $7, $8, $9. He's like, and then it's not going to go down because they want you to get, or they're going to tell you to get a different car. It's exactly what is happening. It's exactly what is happening. It hasn't got 7, 8 here, but I didn't think it would get to that here. I actually, how fast it got to 5, I'm like, dear God, it's going to get to 6 in Michigan. But I know other places it's gotten to $7, $8. Like out in California and stuff. And they keep saying, hey, well, we want these green solutions. Hey, we want people in these different cars and all this other kind of stuff. So yeah, they don't plan for the stuff to really go down. They don't plan to solve the problem. And it's not because they can't and they don't know how. Speaking of problems that they know how to solve, but they won't because of their ideology and stuff. So the Supreme Court, because of Roberts and Kavanaugh, sided with the justices who were liberal and stuff. They did not uphold the remain in Mexico policy that the Trump administration had. So when that happened, I'm like, I bet Biden's people, or at least some of them, have to be like, oh shoot. Because if they had got struck down and the court said that they had to do this, at least they could be like, that darn radical Supreme Court, that darn Trump, and his appointees making us do things that are smart. How dare they? And now they don't have to do that. So the problem will continue to get worse, and perhaps that's all by design too. But I don't know if they expect it to be as bad as what it is. And it's probably overwhelmingly bad for them. So if they had to be forced to do a Trump policy that was good, then that was going to be a win for them because they could keep their rhetoric and do the right thing. So now they don't have the rhetoric. They could be like, oh yeah, we got a victory. But things on the border will just get worse. So now the only solution to people, Americans, not just on border states that are concerned about the influx and the border not being protected, but also in these other states where they're sending people to, are gonna say, wow, the only way this is going to get fixed is if we elect a Republican next time. Because the court didn't uphold that rule. So we just need other people, not just a different president, other representatives and senators and stuff that are going to make sure the right thing gets done. That's the only solution for it. Only solution for it. So I think Biden is screwed. So when I know people were upset about the ruling, and I understand being upset, but when I saw it, I kind of laughed. Because I'm like, some of them are probably like, oh crap. Oh crap. Kind of like the federal mandate with the taking off the masks and stuff. The courts made them not like, oh yeah, you can take your mask off that on airplanes and stuff. Yeah, it's unconstitutional, blah blah blah. And they're like arguing like, oh, that's so awful. But everybody was ready for them to pretty much come off at that point in time. And they're even like, what was going expiration anyway? Yet they were still kind of fighting it. It's just weird. These people are weird. They just want to go down swinging. But I do want to play this last clip of Biden back not too long ago, campaign trail, when he said killing the filibuster would be a bad idea.
Should they end the legislative filibuster if that's what's needed to pass gun reform?
I think we have to make that call on the fly. Ending the filibuster is a very dangerous thing to do because it's been used by progressives our whole time to make sure that we did not get rolled over.
Yeah. So he admits that people used the filibuster to not get rolled over and stuff, and now he's saying, "Oh, we got to get rid of it for the sake of the abortion." Good luck with that in November, bro. I don't think that's going to turn out too good. Though I am a little concerned about some of the Senate seats. In Georgia, there was a Quinnipiac poll that looked kind of bad. So Warnock is up compared to Walker. Now, of course, they were off with like Biden, so who knows? But I am concerned. I know a lot of people really, really like Herschel Walker. I don't know how well Herschel Walker is going to be able to convey some of the conservative messages. Not because I don't think he agrees with them. I just don't. I don't know. There's a lot of politicians out there that can't explain issues very well, and the nitty-grittiness of some stuff. And I don't know how Will Herschel could do that on a debate stage. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm a little concerned. So on the ground, people, especially like, pastors. I know some pastors, friends and stuff out there. You guys got to do your work, man, because Warnock should not get reelected. That'd be crazy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. That is my show. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you liked it and you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Very much appreciate all your support, whether you give small or large. It's always appreciated. Make sure that you guys are that you're sharing, that you're subscribing. Those are ways that you can also help to support Black T News. Make sure that you guys are checking out different merchandise that we have at the store. Like the You Are Not That Special shirts. We also got them in cute little mugs that you guys can get. Also, if you are unaware, I do write books myself. If you go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise, there's a banner that will take you over to my book website. I write young adult fiction like that. This is my latest release. I also have children's chapter books that you guys can check out. Super Kid 2, very popular. There's quite a few people who watch Black Tea who've got these for the kids, and they really, really, really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for some wholesome entertainment for your children, with some good conservative values, they're not political books, but they just have good old-fashioned wholesome values in it. You guys can check out Super Kid. So again, if you go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise button, there's a banner that'll take you to that site. My book website is called ninjadustpublishing.com, but you can find it all this kind of information on blacktnews.com. And please make sure you guys go to blacktnews.com and check out that article that Larry Elder shared. It was very important to me, but it was cool that he shared it. But look, I'm just so annoyed for other people, I guess, when that kind of stuff happens. And I know people get really passionate on my behalf, but it's just a fact of life that these people are going to say terrible things, especially to Black Republicans and conservatives and stuff. And I just got to keep pressing and doing what I'm doing, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I think there's one more video that I had from Justice Thomas that's really good, and I'm going to close out with this and call it a day.
You can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
I've always said that if I have to stand alone, I will stand alone. So I'm happy that there's plenty of other people who are willing to stand with me. But if it's the right thing, I'll stand alone if I have to. I don't care if it's my family's arguing or whatever. If it's right, I think if everyone's like arguing with you, need to analyze yourself a bit, because you could be up in your feelings and stuff. But if something is right, I will stand alone if I have to. North is still north. So I believe in those words, and that's a really good mantra to follow. So I hope you guys agree and you're willing to stand up for what's right and what's good. God bless you guys, and I will see you on Monday.